This episode is brought to you by Love Hurts. Kiwi Kwan has had quite a career, from childhood roles in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and The Goonies to a recent Academy Award win for Everything Everywhere All at Once. But now Ki finally stars as a leading man in the film Love Hurts. Love Hurts is the perfect date night movie with its mix of over-the-top action, comedy, and a ton of heart. Love Hurts, only at theaters February 7th.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
This episode is brought to you by Atlassian. Atlassian makes the team collaboration software that powers enterprise businesses around the world, including over 80% of the Fortune 500. With Atlassian's AI-powered software like Jira, Confluence, and Loom, you'll have more time to do the work that matters. In fact, Atlassian customers experience a 25% reduction in project duration per year. Unleash the potential of your team at Atlassian.com. Atlassian.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome back to much needed, much anticipated Money Talks. I am Tadiwa Nakira. I'll be in the host seat today, and I will be talking to Mr. Money Man himself, Mo Chatra. Mo, this has been long overdue. I'm glad we're doing it now, and it's quite timely that it's been organized for this week.
Perfect timing. Yeah, been a while, but yeah, glad to be back. And what a day to come out with another Money Talks. Yeah. Deloitte Football Money League has been published, the 25th edition. And yeah, not only for Liverpool, but even for some of the other clubs, not only in England, but around Europe. Some interesting numbers have been published. And yeah, we'll get into that in just a moment.
Yeah, I've got quite a few questions for you, so I'm quite keen to get straight into it if you don't mind. Mo, you did mention the Deloitte Football Money League has been published, and I think it's been fantastic that it's continued to be published because it gives an opportunity for maybe those that don't always keep a close eye on finances to just get an idea of what's going on with some of these clubs, and then also get experts like you talking about it. So what can you tell us about some of the key information that was revealed within this year's Money League?
Well, I mean, it did show that, on a general basis, money, as it always tends to do in football these days, is growing season on season on season. So Real Madrid this season came out on top. They broke the 1 billion euros mark at 1.046 billion euros, which equates to approximately 900 million pounds, which is just unbelievable. For that club to be generating that amount of money, and it had a very, very successful season. Clearly another successful one in Europe and domestically as well, and that was why the club generated bucket loads of commercial revenue. It generated 482 million euros, and that would equate to in the region of about 420 or so million pounds. So that's way in excess of a Liverpool or a Manchester United. Slightly more than Manchester City commercially, but if you strip out, let's not go there. But that's an impressive amount of commercial revenue, and for arguably the most successful club of modern time, and clearly when it comes to the European stage, by far the most successful. No surprise that they've done so well, and this would explain why the club were able to just blow Liverpool out of the water at the start of that season, because we are talking about 23-24's accounts. And in the summer of 2023, as fellow Reds would all be more than aware, we really were keen on a player in one Jude Bellingham. But Real Madrid came in with an offer that just blew us out of the water, not only in terms of the wages offer that went Bellingham's way, but also for agents' fees and a huge chunk of money towards his dad. So the revenue that they generated that season was immense, and no wonder that they were bullish about landing that player, and so they did. But well done to them. They topped the Deloitte Football Money League for 23-24. Liverpool finished in 8th. That was not an unexpected position, though a little bit of a surprise was that for the first time in about 7 years, they were picked by Arsenal. So Arsenal ramped up its income quite significantly, and I'll talk about that a bit later on. But English clubs certainly did well in terms of the top 10. 6 of them were English clubs. Barcelona and Real Madrid, as you would expect, were up there as well. And then the other 2 were Bayern and PSG. So, very impressive. And it sort of lends itself to the argument that, look, we know that Real Madrid, Barcelona, Juve and a couple of others have still not given up hopes of this Super League concept. And when they look at all the English clubs dominating this list when it comes to the top 10, it's no wonder, that they have to work really, really hard on the commercial front to try and compete financially with these English clubs, because the TV money that the English clubs enjoy, the Premier League and its popularity worldwide, it just blows all the other leagues around Europe out of the water when it comes to, distribution rights and the like. So that's an impressive list nonetheless. In terms of the top 10 then, Real Madrid, Manchester City in 2nd, PSG 3rd, Manchester United 4th. They finished with a respectable 662 million pounds, and that is a level of revenue they won't be achieving this season because they obviously are not in the Champions League and may not be back in that competition for several more years. 5th was Bayern Munich, Barcelona at 6th, Arsenal 7th, Liverpool 8th, Tottenham 9th, and rounding off the top 10 was Chelsea.
That is a lot of interesting tidbits there, Mo. And maybe just to divert quickly, a little tidbit on Jude Bellingham. I think I was more hurt with the Tchouaméni one than the Jude Bellingham one because of how confident Real Madrid were they were going to get Bellingham. But I was speaking to someone involved at Real Madrid who was saying, they messaged me and they were saying, by the way, I feel people are not appreciating the level and speed to which the Bernabeu has fallen in love with Jude Bellingham. He goes on to say, I was there and participated when we booed CR7 early. We booed Zidane, Figo, Raul. It took time and trophies for all of them. Jude landed and has been loved ever since. I thought that was quite interesting. So, it's crazy how quickly he's sort of become ingrained in the Real Madrid culture and how quickly they've embraced him. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's that loved there. We know there's a certain Liverpool player that is very good friends with him. that might be saying, look how much they love me. They might love you equally. I don't know if it'll be the same. And maybe this isn't the podcast to talk about that, but their thoughts on Trent aren't the same as the thoughts they had when they were bringing Jude in terms of the love that the club has for him and the protection that they offer. But anyway, that's for another podcast on another day. But I thought it interesting to mention that because you mentioned Jude. But one of the things that you mentioned there that I think is quite interesting from those takeaways we can get from the Money League coming out is sort of the whole wage bill and wage bills for different clubs. And obviously for Liverpool Football Club, I think there's special attention that's been paid to that over the recent years. So on the wage bill, though, can you elaborate on what's happened with the wage bill for Liverpool in the 23-24 season compared to, I guess, the season prior?
Well, this is the real contentious bit of info where Liverpool fans are concerned with the publication of the Deloitte Football Money League. So what the results have revealed is that the wage bill for 23-24 went up. Now, it went up by about £40 million and it hit a record high of £387 million. The reason this is contentious is because the wage bill was expected by most financial observers to reduce quite appreciably as well. And there were several reasons for that. One of which was the fact that in 23-24, Liverpool did not compete in the Champions League. And we all know that Liverpool's deals are more incentivized than most. I mean, nearly all, top clubs when it comes to player contracts have bonuses built in. So there is incentivization within them. But some clubs' kind of business models are more skewed around incentivization and less on basic wages, if that makes sense. And Liverpool is one of those that leans in that direction. The ownership are very much of the view that, look, if we've got very heavily incentivized deals, we feel there's greater motivation for the players to perform to the best of their abilities. Whereas if their earnings are largely guaranteed, irrespective of performance, then they may perhaps be less inclined to work quite as hard for their earnings. And it's hard to argue against that given the improved performances Liverpool Football Club has seen in the last 7, 8, 9 years, because this change of approach introduced by FSG was a change made, I think, about 2012-13 in terms of moving to more incentivized contracts, and it obviously needed a bit of time to bed in as new signings arrived and existing players renew their contracts. So by, say, 2015, 2016, most of the first team squad, if not all of them, were on these different types of deals. And the reason I'm concerned about this is because not only did we drop out of Champions League and therefore players not earning that Champions League earnings in terms of high levels of appearance money, but other types of bonuses. We also saw the departure of a number of very high earners at Liverpool, amongst whom were Bobby Firmino, Fabinho, Jordan Henderson, and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Naby Keita, James Milner, one or two others. So when all of that was considered in the round, plus the fact that none of the first team squad during 23-24 renew their contracts, and the only other notable signings of first team player contracts were from academy players coming through into the first team squad in Jarell Quansah and Conor Bradley. There was no obvious reason as to why the wage bill should go up. And if anything, everything suggested the wage bill should go down by not only a few million, but by tens of millions. Yes, we brought in some players in Alexis McAllister, Szoboszlai, Endo, and Gravenberch, but none of them came in on the types of wages that some of the top earners that I just mentioned earlier were earning at the point at which they moved on. So everything pointed to and suggested that the wage bill would be down. So I remember speculating that the wage bill would probably be down to about 320, and yet it ended up at 380 plus million. And like I said earlier, there were others that also expected this wage bill to be down, and down by quite a fair amount. So the fact that it was so much higher than expectations is a major surprise, and it's now created a lot of discussion and debate about, well, why? What on earth has happened? And then obviously there are many conspiracy theorists who are saying, well, this is proof, this is evidence that FSG are extracting money out of the club and they're doing it through the wage bill. Now, because the accounts that are published are actually quite limited in terms of the information that they disclose, there is no way of really knowing exactly who is on the wage bill. All that the accounts show is the total wage bill. It gives a bit of a breakdown in terms of contributions towards pensions and national insurance. The accounts tell us the total number of employees broken down by players and administration staff in one or two other categories, and that's and maybe the earnings of the highest paid director, and that's really about it. And the club is under no obligation to divulge any more information than that. So it will largely be left to speculation now as to what has happened. But like I said, there are many people that are putting two and two together and coming up with, well, this is proof that FSG are taking money out of the club. I've got nothing to say, well, no, that definitely isn't happening. They're definitely not taking dividends out of the club because that would be disclosed. But are the ownership taking money out in other ways? Well, are they doing that through the wage bill, as some have speculated? I honestly couldn't say. But it's difficult to explain how, under normal circumstances, that wage bill could have gone up when it should have come down by a significant amount.
That certainly does raise quite a few questions, and gets me thinking in terms of all the permutations that you've mentioned there. But I think also, Mo, one of the things that helps with the incentivized deals is the fact that when the club isn't doing as well, then the wage bill should come down to help support maybe the lack of revenue that the club is getting that year. Say if you don't make a Champions League, for example, but if it's not happening that way, that could be quite interesting. But I'm speaking of that turnover. Obviously, the club has to pay all of these wages in some way, shape, or form. The turnover for the club in 23-24, what are some of the key observations in terms of the information that has come out so far?
Yeah, so the income is an interesting one, and again there was a surprise there. What it showed is, and again this is based on obviously not any published accounts, but the figures in the Deloitte Money League. My understanding is that Deloitte, who are one of the largest accountancy firms in the world, they obviously have now been running this report for, like I mentioned earlier, this is their 25th edition, so over the last 24 years. And my understanding is that they obtain the information directly from the clubs, because it's very rare for, in fact, I can't recall a time when Deloitte have published any turnover figures that have turned out to be incorrect. So it certainly suggests that the clubs themselves are disclosing this information directly to Deloitte, even when the accounts haven't been published. And obviously Liverpool's haven't been officially published as yet for the 23-24 season. But the turnover is a record-breaking amount of £614 million, which I was surprised by, and again, others were surprised by, because with the fact that we had no Champions League and the Anfield Road End expansion hadn't been fully completed, there was an expectation that the previous season's turnover of about 594 million would be down slightly to perhaps about 560 to 580 million. And yet, in fact, it grew. And it grew because match day, according to the account, was over £100 million to the figure that Deloitte have produced it equates to £113 million. The commercial revenue is at 295 million, which is incredible. That's a really, really impressive number, and it has shown very significant growth as commercial revenue in the last couple of years, between say 21-22 season through till 23-24. And then broadcast is coming at around 240 million. So despite no Champions League football, only with Europa League money coming in, the club still generated a very big number for broadcast revenue. Obviously, the bulk of that was Champions League money, and it was in 23-24 that prize money did increase for the domestic competition. So overall, that is very, very impressive to achieve 640 million. And when you compare that to the last time that Liverpool didn't make the Champions League, which was in, I think it was 2016-17, in that season, the revenues were at £364 million. So it shows just how much income streams have grown in just those 7 years. Match day, because of the expanded stadium, broadcast revenue, Premier League money just kept on going up and up. But commercial is the big driver for that overall growth in income. The commercial team has clearly done very well over the last several years. I mean, it's a team that I've been somewhat critical of in years gone by, but to give them their credit, they've done a really fantastic job. And if that number is correct, then without question, the club will be breaking through the £300 million mark this season, and that is massively impressive.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouthwatering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
You know what's smart? Enjoying a fresh gourmet meal at home that you didn't have to cook. Meet Factor, your loophole in the laws of mealtime. Chef-crafted meals delivered with a tap, ready in just 2 minutes. You know what's even smarter? Treating yourself without cheating your goals. Factor is dietitian approved, chef prepared, and you plated. Pretty smart, huh? Refresh your routine and eat smart with Factor. Learn more at factormeals.com.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. Ha. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
I think some of that criticism stems from the fact of the potential that Liverpool had in the commercial market and how big of a global brand Liverpool is. And perhaps maybe not all of the opportunities were being taken, in my opinion. But it seems like they certainly have been maximizing those in recent years, and long may that continue. I don't think many people would have too big an issue with the business side of things, the commercial side of things from an FSG perspective. Maybe it's more the on-field stuff. But again, this podcast is more to do with the off-the-field stuff. And Mo, at about, well, let's say 14 hours ago, you posted something on Twitter, a thread discussing the Deloitte Football Money League. And it's safe to say that it may have broken Twitter to some extent, and there's been a lot of discourse about it. You've obviously not had a chance to be on a podcast or react to it yet. So I'll feel remiss if I didn't ask you, what's your reaction, some 14 hours later, having seen the discourse, having seen what's been discussed, and obviously if you want to touch on some of the things you pointed out in your thread.
Yeah, I mean, I got up quite early this morning and noticed that the results had been published, reviewed them, and then produced a quick bit of analysis and posted a thread. So I think it was just after 7 a.m. in the UK. Headed straight to work, had a busy day at the office, barely had time to check my phone all day, and then checked it only a couple of times during the day. But sometimes when I post these threads, the mentions go a bit crazy. But today, it was a whole different level of crazy. I just couldn't read all the messages, and I might really struggle to reply to even some of them. But yeah, there's a lot of fume, a lot of curiosity about what has happened with the wage bill. I'm not somebody that just observes finance. I'm not an amateur finance person. I'm a chartered accountant by background. And finance is part of my day job. And I've been involved in finance for, 25 years. So, when it comes to finance, I understand my stuff. And yeah, the wage bill thing just didn't make sense. But I thought, look, I have to share this. I have to post my observations, and people can make of it what they want. And yeah, a lot of it is curiosity, anger, even about FSG and what on earth is going on with the wage bill. And I think it's right that they're asking that. What concerns me, though, is that I'm a little account on X asking these questions. With the publication of this, why haven't we seen most of the media outlets that cover Liverpool Football Club posting about this today, posting articles, trying to maybe make some inquiries, carrying out what I would call investigative journalism? We may see some of that in the next several days, but when there are things that have happened when it comes to this club, which perhaps invites scrutiny of the ownership and questioning them, then there are far too large a section of what you can call the legacy media, new media, fan channels that want to just brush it under the carpet to maintain relationships, as far as I'm concerned. And I think serious questions have to be asked. And Liverpool, as I mentioned, they were under no obligations to say anything. They're a private company. They publish very limited information through their accounts. And what they do with that money, it's up to them. But, football is not like normal business. And the way that football operates when it comes to business is unique compared to other businesses. And when people come into a football club and try to run it like a normal business, that is out of kilter with the way in which the vast majority of football clubs operate, not only around the world, but especially in England. I've been doing a bit of work looking at the football pyramid, the 92 clubs in England, and it's something I'm yet to conclude. I've even been talking to Kieran Maguire about this as well in the past few days. And what I'm coming to the conclusion of is that Liverpool are one of a very, very small handful of clubs now in the 92 that comprise from the Premier League down to League Two that have ownership that do not invest any money in the club. Because there is a growing misconception that PSR and other kind of regulations that the Premier League have in place prohibit any form of investment by owners of a football club. And that is simply not true. So this kind of conversation around owner investment, and also in particular and specifically about the wage bill for the 23-24 accounts, I think deserves more scrutiny, more investigation. And I think fans of this club deserve some answers from the club or the ownership, because we've seen it for year after year after year that clubs that generate less money than Liverpool are still spending in terms of net spend. And net spend, for those people that say net spend isn't a thing, it absolutely is a thing. So shut up with your, nonsense about that. This is something that is a concern, because we have seen overall a lack of investment in the squad. And we're getting to a point where arguably three of our most important players may be out of the exit door for nothing in a few months. And to replace them like for like would cost minimum £400 million, like for like. And that's if you can even find people of that caliber. And this is an ownership group that, if you speak to people involved in making deals happen when it comes to moving the player from club A to B, the word on the street is that Liverpool Football Club are miserly. And that stems from the ownership and the model that they wish to operate for this club. So these are the types of subjects about the recruitment, the strategy, about the investment approach, about the wage bill, that I see far, far too little of in terms of discussion, interrogation, investigation amongst media outlets. So I'm calling them out now and saying, are you journalists, or are you just an extension of the club's PR department? Because if you're the latter, don't call yourself a journalist no more.
I think those are words that I echo, Mo. And I think it goes even beyond accounting. Obviously, you're coming from the background of accounting and the experience that you have there in the finance world. I think I can speak on from the legal side of things, the amount of times where some of these owners have been involved in big litigations, and there's not anything. I'll be involved in something, and there's not even, an article or a sentence spoken about, even on X, just a passing comment that, these multi-million-dollar cases are currently being deliberated on in court. Obviously, you get the public inquiries like the Man City one, but that's a drop in the ocean of some of the legal battles that happen behind the scenes, things that aren't even, the media aren't barred from speaking about, but they just choose not to actually look into some of this stuff. I remember speaking to Gags, I think it was back in 2022, about a club that's now been relegated from the Premier League, and maybe you can try and do your maths there, where they were involved in some heavy litigation, and that, in my opinion, was going to limit their ability to strengthen their squad in the January window because of the amount of money that was tied up in what they were involved in. And lo and behold, the club couldn't do anything in January. The squad was desperate for it, but the club was tied, not because of maybe financial reasons, but more to do with legal reasons. And they end up not being able to strengthen the club. Lo and behold, the club gets relegated. But none of those strings get tied together. None of, as you say, the investigative side of journalism seems to be a dying art at the moment. And it truly is a shame, because it seems journalists are more worried about whether or not they're going to be allowed into the press conference and to ask a question, opposed to whether or not they're covering the game as an objective person. It's something that needs to be addressed, and hopefully it's something that gets addressed in the coming days and going forward. But Mo, Liverpool aren't the only club that were involved in the Deloitte Football Money League, and you touched on some of the other clubs earlier on. But if we may, I'm sure some of our listeners will be interested in our rival clubs. We've got the likes of Man City, Man United, Arsenal, Tottenham, Chelsea, were all mentioned in this report. What are some of your key takeaways from the information relating to those clubs specifically?
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of one cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.